Hello. Well, today, I want to sort of give a sort of a tribute of sorts to Before Sunrise, since it's 30 years since this film came out. Um, Obviously, I've talked about all three of these films: Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, uh, and Before Midnight. Specifically, 2 years ago, since this became 10 years old. Um, Obviously, there was no fourth film, which there was some speculation that there could have been, but obviously it never happened. Um, if it would have, it would have been like 2022, because it was every 9 years these films came out. And, Jesse and Celine, these two met in Vienna, and Celine's as it says here on the back, a Paris University student, and Jesse's an American tourist, and they just decide to spend the day together before both of them have to leave. Uh, and these movies were, and this one was like, directed by Richard Linklater. Um, and who actually co-wrote all of these films. The last two, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy, wrote the second and third films. Kim Kierzin wrote the first film with Linklater, as well as helped write the second, but she was absent for the third film. And I mentioned this before, but I really liked how all the story progressed with all these films, like how we see every 9 years where these two are, and how their relationship is, in many ways still there. Like they didn't really stay in touch between the first two films, but they get back in touch with the second and are together in the third. And this first film is really, really good. I know a lot of people they love this the best. Probably because, it's like it just sort of starts off the trilogy so well. It's like they just, two people in their 20s who just hang out together, and essentially it's like, they may never see each other again. So they make a promise at the end to come back exactly 1 year. Or like at 6 months or so, and to try to reconnect, but that doesn't happen, for which we find out in the next film why. But yeah, it's very good. And these are films that, a big thing that I've often, which I did say before, but I still do say now whenever these movies get brought up, is like, the writing is really good. The way these two talk, that's like how real people talk. It's like how, people just talk about whatever, whether it's, really important or not. It's like, people talk about many things from things that are important to the most mundane, unimportant thing you could ever think of. Um, I think that's part of what helps these movies uh, continue to be as enjoyed as they are, and especially 30 years later, looking back at this, it's like this really does show like how good, the acting is really good as well as but the writing is really good too, and the direction is good also. Um, the last two films got nominated for adapted screenplay. This film didn't get nominated for any Academy Awards. Um, I think it would have been cool if Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy actually got nominated for some actual awards. I know Delpy got nominated for a Golden Globe, but Hawke really didn't get nominated for a whole lot beyond writing, really, which I think is actually quite unfortunate because he's really good in all these films. But yeah, 30 years ago began a trilogy, which actually was not obviously planned to be a trilogy. It was supposed to be a one film thing. Richard Linklater actually was inspired to make this as a result of spending like a night similar to Jesse and Celine, where he met a woman in a toy store, and they just hung out the whole night. And he never knew what happened to her because they didn't really keep in contact like that. I believe they had each other's number or something, and around the time he made this, he was hoping and like maybe she'll show up at a screening somewhere, and she never did. And then he found out that she died in a motorcycle accident in 1994, around the time he was making this, and so he found out just before or around the time they started to make Before Midnight, and so this film is dedicated to her. So if you ever watch this film and then you see the end, it'll be dedicated to her memory. So yeah, her name was Amy, and now of course the last name of course is escaping me, but I will write down her last name or full name, or yeah, her name there. But yeah, so the woman whom he met and basically spawned a trilogy from passed away, and figured the best thing to do was, when concluding this trilogy, was to dedicate it to her memory. And yeah, I've said before, I'm not a huge romance fan, but the characters, the writing, and everything is what really makes these films. It's these two people, these characters, and you get to see them for about 2 decades, seeing where they begin and where they end up, and it's a really cool journey to go on. And I know there was talk that 2022 there could have been a fourth film, a fourth Before movie, which of course people would have speculated what that film would have been like. Understandable. Before sunrise, before sunset, before midnight. Who knows? Maybe it would have been like before noon or something. And who knows? Maybe it could have been Hank, Jesse's son, with a woman that he had between before sunrise and before sunset. Maybe he could have been married. and maybe that would have been the only film that would have taken place in America, and they would have been there, as well as their two daughters would have been in America, because first it was Vienna, and then they were in France in the second film, and then the third they were in Greece. So yeah, going back to the United States of America, probably like Texas, that would have been an interesting thing to see them, because they never went to America before, which is where Jesse's from. He's from Texas. But it's completely fine that there is just three. A fourth film, I think if made, it probably would have been good, but at the same time, not really needed. So, yeah. And Ethan Hawke and Richard Linklater, I heard there is a new movie that they've done coming soon, so I'll have to see what that's about. But yeah, this began a fruitful collaborative joint effort with Ethan Hawke and Richard Linklater as actor director teams, like Scorsese and De Niro, or Nolan and Kane, directors who just cast people in multiple movies over and over. But yeah, this is a great film, great trilogy. So if you've never watched these movies, I believe they are on the Criterion channel. So if you have that, you can stream these films, and then if you like them, I would recommend buying this set. I remember when I got this, I got it during a sale, or so. It was too expensive, and so I don't want to give an estimated price on it, but these shouldn't be too hard. But I think this set is the best, because you have all these excellent special features of the making of these films, and these Blu-rays are really good quality. But you could also just probably find them on DVD or non-Criterion Blu-rays too, if you aren't sure about. If you look up the price of this, and maybe it is quite a bit, but I don't recall when I got this, I want to say this was back in 2021 or so. I don't remember now. Trying to remember years ago, but I've had this set for quite some time, and great set. These films are excellent, and yeah, if you are absolutely interested in any of these films, if you haven't watched them, I'd recommend them. It's a really cool. It's really cool to watch these two. These two characters and their relationship grow over the course of 18 years. Since 1995 is when obviously this film came out, and 2013 is when the last film came out. So 18 years, though I guess you could say, well, it takes place 1994, and 2012 is when this ends. But either way, it's like an 18-year journey, regardless of when you think these films took place. But yeah, really excellent movies, and movie specifically before sunrise, just to see how these two meet, their conversations, and just to see how they end up in the end. It's really good just to see that growth in the first film, really, of these two characters, of getting to know each other. And then, of course, 2 follow-ups, you get to see that relationship more. And I think it's great. I think it's really good. I guess I got kind of spoiled it a bit earlier. But I figured, I should probably talk about this again because it is a big anniversary. 30 years has gone by. And this was something I don't believe either, any of these guys thought they would ever return after this film. So the fact that they did, and each time they did, they were very, very happy and pleased with the development of their characters. I think that's a good testament to the writing and the performances, and the direction too. So yeah, that's really all I have to say. I think that these are excellent films, and they're the kind of movies that, while one might not necessarily be fond of, I think they're worth watching at least once, just to see what you think. The writing and the acting, I do believe, is really good. Though, of course, whether you'll think that beyond like the dialogue and the acting, like whether anything else is particularly good, that's going to be obviously one's opinion if you've never watched these before. But I enjoy these. I enjoy these films. And yeah. What do you think if you've seen them? And specifically Before Sunrise. You like this film? You love this film? Somewhere in the middle for you? Do you like this the best of the trilogy, or is it in the middle or at the bottom? And even if it is at the bottom, do you think it's good or what? Because sometimes when people rank things like a part of a trilogy, they kind of, whatever's at the bottom, it doesn't mean it's always bad. It's like, just maybe like the film that you might not want to watch perhaps as often. And I think another reason people really like this is because it's just, in a way, like you see the blossoming of a relationship happen. And that's something that, is really nice. And some films don't always do that. Like you see the beginning of a relationship, and then maybe by the time the movie is over, they're married or they have kids. They're married and have kids or whatever, and that's how it ends. Whereas here, it's like they're met for the first time, and in the end, they have to depart, and then obviously, until you watch the sequel, it's like, well, what happens? Do they ever reconnect? Do they not? Why not? But yeah, these movies are really good. And again, yeah, I think they're worth watching at least once. So, yeah, let me know what you think of Before Sunrise and the trilogy as a whole. I hope all of you are doing well. Hope you're all having a great day. Hope you're all having a great week. And I shall see you all next time. Take care. Bye.